Good morning. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Three cheers for the red, white, and blue. Three cheers for the red, white, and blue. The flag of America forever. Three cheers for the red, white, and blue. Three cheers for the red, white, and blue. Three cheers for the red, white, and blue. The flag of America forever. Three cheers for the red, white, and blue.
Good morning. Here we are on Thursday of our last week of school. I hope you're all enjoying the week and having a lot of fun.
Let's celebrate a few birthdays. Today is Matthew Deller's birthday, and Liliana Anderson also celebrates today. Have a great birthday.
Birthday pal, we sing a ling a ling with all our hearts to you. We hope there'll be something a ling a ling that we can do for you. In autumn, winter, spring a ling and all the whole year through. This little song we'll sing a ling, a birthday song for you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, everybody. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, everybody.
One of our favorite traditions each June is inviting the graduating class of Pearson High School to morning programs so we all have a chance to say congratulations and wish them all the best as they head off into the world. Now, normally we would be inviting the class to morning program in our gym. Since we're not together that way, we wanted to make sure that we took some time during remote morning program to say a special congratulations to the Pearson High School class of 2020. To our seniors, we wish you all the best as you celebrate your graduation this weekend. We are so very proud of you. We've admired all that you've accomplished during your years here in the Sag Harbor School District. You have an exciting world ahead of you, but it is a world that definitely is faced with some challenges, and we hope that you can take all that you've learned here in Sag Harbor and go out there and make this world a better place.
The first day of kindergarten was a great one for me and you. And each day we learned more than the last day. There's nothing we can't do. Now when we walk with pride. We've got the power deep inside. First grade, we're coming soon. And when you dream big, as big as the ocean blue. 'Cause when you dream, it might come true. So when you dream big. September picnic and the Halloween parade, turkey woogie December holidays, Martin Luther King and Happy Valentine. Don't forget St. Patrick's Day. Then the spring, the flowers bloom, and summer's coming soon. It's time to put on our shades. And when you dream big, as big as the ocean blue. 'Cause when you dream, it might come true. And when you dream big. Now when we walk with pride. Got the power deep inside. First grade, we're coming soon. Now we're here with our friends. The good time never ends. Attitude of gratitude. And when you dream big, as big as the ocean blue. 'Cause when you dream, it might come true. So when you dream big.
Hello again. This is Deanna Latanzio from the Sag Harbor Historical Society, and today I'm going to talk to you about the Sag Harbor Farm, the Silly Farm, the Cove Side Dairy that was established by my grandparents almost 100 years ago in 1922. My grandparents came from Italy. They came to America. They bought this piece of property for $400. Their dream was to establish a dairy farm. Now, a dairy farm is a farm that has cows, and the sole purpose is to produce milk. And they would bottle the milk and deliver the milk. It was a true family farm. The farm was started with just 12 cows, and eventually they had up to 65 cows. If you were to purchase the milk, it would be in a bottle. They had small bottles and big bottles, but the bottles had Cove Side Dairy, Vitale Silly, Sag Harbor, New York. I'd like to show you the buildings on the farm that is no longer a farm but has been purchased by someone who has left many of the buildings intact. The first building that you'll see here is the house. Now, my mother grew up in this house with 4 brothers and 2 sisters. There were 9 people in this house. And you might say, wow, that's not a very big house. Well, the house was even smaller when my mother and her family lived there. Very close quarters. The next building is called the Milk House, which I'll explain a little bit about in a bit. And then in the back is the original barn, where the cows were milked and where they slept. I'd like to tell you now about the life in the day of a farmer. Now, living on a farm, growing up on a farm was not an easy life because you never had a day off. The cows never said, okay, you don't have to milk me today. They had to be milked twice a day, once at 5 a.m. and once at 5 p.m. And after they were milked, the milk was put into buckets at first, and then in later years, they were put in heavy metal milk cans that were brought by truck to the milk house. The milk house is that second house there. That milk house was where they prepared the milk for people to drink. They pasteurized it. It's a process where they make sure the milk is safe for people to consume. Also in the milk house is where the milk was poured into bottles. It was like on a little conveyor, and then the caps were snapped on. Once the milk was put into the bottles, it was then ready to be brought to the public. There was a giant refrigerator in the milk house where it would be kept cold until they were ready to transport it. Now, in the beginning, my grandfather delivered milk with a horse and buggy, but as years passed, he had trucks, and as his family grew, he had 4 sons to help him with the delivery of the milk. Now, sometimes the weather didn't cooperate. One time in 1947, there was a very bad snowstorm, and the milk had to be delivered by a farm tractor. And then in the 50s, we had several hurricanes, and when we had those hurricanes, the water would flood from the cove, and the entire street of Glover Street would be flooded. In fact, the house was flooded. Sometimes 3 feet or more of water was in the house. To avoid the flooding of the house was raised in later years. But to get the milk to the customers, they would put the milk in rowboats, and they would row the milk to trucks that were on higher ground. This is a sign in memory of my grandfather, the Tally Silly Avenue. It's this little street that goes behind the pasture where the cows once grazed. What you're looking at was once one of the pastures where the cows would graze. The grazing means they would all day lay in the fields and eat grass. And by doing that, their body was able to produce milk. After the farm was sold, this property was empty for a while, and there was a beautiful piece of my grandfather's farm equipment there in memory of him. Now, as you can see, it has been developed by all these houses. Twice a day, the traffic on Glover Street would be stopped so the cows could be escorted across the street to the pasture, and then at the end of the day, escorted across the street back into the barn so they could be milked. This pasture was also used for a circus. Once a year, my grandfather would rent this piece of property for the circus to come to town. They only stayed for one night, and it was such a wonderful time for my mother's family because they got to get free tickets and go to the circus. This is the site of the other pasture where the cows would graze. It's alongside of the farm, and it goes all the way around to Long Island Avenue. Fortunately, this land, this 9 acres, has been preserved. This is the other end of the pasture that ran alongside the farm, and it curled around, and it ended up on Long Island Avenue. And every now and then, the cows would decide to take a stroll. They would come over the fence, and they would take a stroll. They would cross Long Island Avenue and shoot up to Bayview Avenue. You see that little hill at the top of Bayview Avenue? Well, that's where my mother lived. And she would very often get a phone call telling her that the cows were loose, and she'd have to call the farm and tell her brothers to please come and corral the cows and bring them back into the pasture. Now, as you know, cows are very large animals and they need a lot of food in order to produce milk. Well, in the winter, when the snow is on the ground and they can't graze, they would eat food that the farmer had stored for them. Now, my grandfather bought property in Sag Harbor in several different places, and he grew corn and he grew hay. And they harvested the corn, and they would put the corn with the corn stalk and all through a chopper, chop it all up, and then they would shoot it up the silo. The silo is the building where they stored the food for the cows for the winter. Now, I talked to my Aunt Angie, who is the surviving member of the Silly family, and she told me that one of the jobs that the kids had to do was once the silage was shot up the silo, the kids would have to go into the silo and jump up and down to pat it down to make sure that they could fit as much silage into the silo as possible. The silo stood right next to the barn. It was a tall, white, round building. They also needed hay. My grandfather would buy hay from different places, and he also grew hay. And the farm stored the hay in the barn. At the top of the barn, there was a hay loft, and they had pulleys, and they would lower the hay down to the ground into the trucks so they could put it into the barn for the cows because they had to stay in the bad weather. Silly Farm was part of Sag Harbor's history, and it enabled my grandparents to achieve the American dream.
My eyes and I can see a world that's waiting up for me, that I call my own. Through the dark, through the door, through where no one's been before, but it feels like home. They can say it all sounds crazy. They can say I've lost my mind. I don't care, so call me crazy. We can live in a world that we design. 'Cause every night I lie in bed, the brightest colors fill my head. A million dreams are keeping me awake. Think of what the world could be, a vision of the one I see. A million dreams is all it's gonna take. Oh, a million dreams for the world we're gonna make. There's a house we can build, every room inside is filled with things from far away, special